All right, hello and welcome to all of you, and to those of you that are downloading to today's reading, and let me just set up the chart. All right, as you can see, we've returned to the world of the projector, and in this case we're dealing with the triple split projector. The first thing to really grasp about your own chart, and I think I discussed this the other day when looking at a previous triple split definition, is how different you are from the basic split definition. How significant it is for you and so important for you not to get caught up in those individual bonds that ultimately are going to lead to dilemmas for you. I mean, it's one of the things that triple split definitions get into, and particularly in relationships. You know, we're all programmed on this plane through the genetic imperative to seek out and to get into bonds with others, and particularly into intimate bonds with others. And there is this tendency to see them in the same way. And of course, they have to be seen very differently depending on the nature of your design and particularly the construct of your definition. As a triple split definition, you cannot be caught in a bubble with somebody. You know, that kind of relationship where, you know, you spend just about all of your time with the same person. I think, you know, one of the things that you discover as a triple split is that it just simply doesn't work. It ends up creating a great deal of tension. And it doesn't mean that you cannot maintain that kind of intimate relationship with somebody. It just means that you need to find a way to give yourself space. And you need to find a way not just simply to give yourself space in the sense that I discuss in relationship to having your own room and, you know, being able to sleep in your own aura. But for a triple split definition, it's really about getting out in the world. It really is about getting away from those individual beings that are going to lock you into a certain way in which your triple split can come together. I mean, if you look very carefully at your design, you'll see that there's many, many, many different ways in which the three aspects of your nature can be brought together. Not only that, if you look at the nature of your definitions, you'll see that there's also a very basic difference between each and every one of them. If we look at the upper definition, that is the head to the ajna center, this is being defined through an abstract channel, the 6447. And so you have an abstract mind, and yet that abstract mind is deeply disconnected from the throat center. You can see clearly that between the ajna center and your throat, that the three channels that act as a potential to connect them together, that these channels are very open, and there is no basic direction that is there for you. It means that it's often incredibly difficult and can be, something that makes you very uncomfortable, that you're trying to make sense out of things with your abstract mind, and yet it's very difficult for you to talk about those things. It's very difficult for you to articulate them. Now, I'll get back to that in a moment, but let's look at the difference. We have this upper definition that is deeply abstract. And then when we go here to the throat center, to your G center, and your G center for you is enormously important. You incarnated on the cross of the vessel of love. And the vessel of love is one of the two crosses, along with the Sphinx, that has all four of its gates in the G center. So your profile, your 1-3 profile, and all of the aspects of that profile are there in the G center, and you have a divine G center connected to the throat, and it's connected through the throat through the channel 2010. That is, it's connected through a deeply, deeply individual channel. That is the channel of awakening to higher principles, and a gate, the 20th gate, which is very much about the existential voice, the existential presence being here in the now. So your identity, that person who you think you are, that identity is deeply individual. Yet that deeply individual identity and the way in which it talks is going to be in conflict with your very abstract mind and the way in which it thinks. In other words, hearing what you have to say is often very confusing for you. Confusing in the sense that your voice comes out of your individuality. It doesn't come out of your abstract mind. As a matter of fact, it is rare that your abstract mind actually gets to present itself in a way that when you hear yourself talk, that you can actually recognize the way in which your mind has been processing things. But that's not all. When we get down here, into the final of your three definitions, that is the connection between the splenic center and the root, that this is taking place through the channel 3254. Now, this channel, the channel of transformation, this is deeply tribal. It's tribal. So you have a tribal splenic awareness that is separated and very different from your individual identity, that's separate and very different from your abstract mind. In other words, not only do you have these three different areas of definition in your design, but they're very different in the way in which they operate, and they're very different in terms of their concerns. The other thing is that each of those aspects of your definition are going to be more comfortable with circuitry that it's familiar with. And so the moment that you have a relationship with somebody and they're bringing together certain aspects of your definition, they're also going to bring together, certain ways in which you process the world, and you're going to end up aligning yourself in one particular way or another. So there's certain beings in your life that are going to make you more tribal. There's certain beings in your life that are going to enhance your individuality, and others that are going to tap into your abstract and experiential mind. So you have to be very careful about that one person. And by the way, it doesn't mean, that has to be just simply the person that you have an intimate relationship. It can be with, those people that you work with. It can be with friends. It can be with children, parents. In other words, there is always this dilemma that is inherent in you the moment that you get locked into any single connection. Now, as I said, there's nothing wrong with them. In other words, it's not like you can avoid them. You're not here to live in isolation in this life. You're a projector after all. And you're certainly going to need other human beings for you to be able to fulfill what is your process on this plane. But this has to go to the core of what human design is about. Everything about human design is about decision making. Everything about the nature of what it is to be. All of us are objects moving in space. Everything about our existence is literally about navigation. Every decision that you make is in essence a way in which you move yourself, steer yourself, navigate on this plane. And it's making those decisions that are so fundamental for you in terms of being so aware that you cannot afford to make decisions when you're in the aura of another person. I mean, this is the key for you. There's that person who wants something from you, or this person that invites you into something. You cannot make that decision in their aura. Now, there's an incredible temptation for you to do so. That is your splenic to begin with. And of course, anybody that has a defined splenic system, that is unemotional at the same time, you have a totally open solar plex system. That for somebody like you who is splenic, it is very natural for you to act in the moment. Not only that, but it's compounded by the fact that your identity definition to the throat goes through the 20th gate, which is the existential gate. It is about the now. And so the moment that something comes your way, and the moment that that being is standing in your aura, there is this incredible pressure on you to react in the moment. Yet that reaction in the moment is something that, is going to be very distorting for you. And it is not going to lead to what are the correct decisions that are really going to make a difference in your process. The other side of that is, of course, being a vessel of love. There is this tendency in you to embrace the other and be so willing in that sense to make that decision in the moment. You have an undefined heart center. And of course, that undefined heart center means that you're somebody that is caught in trying to prove their worthiness. Anyone who has a triple split definition, that they're very similar to the single definition in the way in which primary conditioning works. For you, your primary conditioning is coming through your three open centers. The open heart center with its not-self strategy of trying to prove your worthiness and not feeling worthy. And your open emotional system, the confrontation and avoidance, the avoidance of confrontation and truth, and your open sacral center, not knowing when enough is enough. And of course, because of the nature of your definition and the fact that, there is a natural tendency to be spontaneous, and at the same time you're conditioning to avoid confrontation and prove your worthiness, that you're willing to get yourself into situations in which you say yes to things that turn out to be really terrible for you. And yes to things that turn out to be terrible for you in all kinds of ways in which they impact your life. So one of the first things to really keep in mind about the nature of your definition is that you need to discipline yourself not to make decisions in the moment. And you need to give yourself the advantage that all triple split definitions can get by taking advantage of the public aura. The public aura is enormously important for you. I mean, it's enormously important for you. See, the advantage of the public aura is that when you go out into the world, when you go out into any environment that's relatively crowded, you get into an environment where all the various possibilities of what it is to be connected, the different ways in which these three areas of your definition can be hooked up, they immediately give you a chance to really assimilate what that decision will bring for you and whether it's the right decision for you to enter into or not. So before you're going to make a decision about anything, go out and take a walk. Go out and take a walk down a busy street, or go shopping, or go sit in a cafe, or whatever the case may be. But go out there into the public aura. It'll give you a chance to really be much more clear about what decision to really make. And this is something, again, that you need to see as a projector. That is the only way that you're really going to be able to fulfill the promise of being a projector, to both recognize and be recognized, is when you can make those decisions correctly. And for you to really be so clear about how deeply distorting somebody in your aura can be. Now, it's an interesting thing because, of course, as a projector, you have a focused and penetrating aura. You're at your very best when you're dealing with people one-on-one. And there is this temptation with this, deep connection that you can have with the other and the way in which you can impact the other as a projector, and being a vessel of love and being designed to be spontaneous, that all of this can lead you to just jumping into things. And of course, this is really, when I was looking at your design before the class began, this was the thing that stood out so clearly about, what it is that will make a difference for you in this life. And the biggest difference for you is, make decisions after you've gone out and process them. And by the way, it's not like you have to think about these things when you're going out. Somebody's invited you to do something or to get involved in something or whatever the case may be. It's not like you have to go out into the public aura and constantly be thinking about this. That really isn't the point at all, because it doesn't work that way, and you don't want to put all of that, responsibility on mind and end up getting into a mind trap, because you will. Your not-self mind is not going to help you. The openness in you is not going to help you in that decision-making. Basically, what's going to happen is that through stepping out into that public aura, you're really going to get the instinctive recognition that you need. That 3254 that you have here, this is instinct. And you have a very, very powerful instinct at work in your design. And you have to trust that instinct. The thing to recognize is that in the moment with somebody, it isn't at its best. It really isn't. It really comes into its nature the moment that you take advantage of bringing everything together so that your spleen is in contact with your identity and in contact with your mental system. So often in your life, decisions happen to you, and there are aspects of your design that are just simply not connected to it. And in the end, that only leads to dilemmas for you. It only leads to difficulties. There's also something else about, your openness, and it is one of those things to be aware of. You have an open heart center, as I mentioned, and we know the not-self strategy of that. You have a hanging 21st gate. And most beings who have an open heart center and have a hanging 21, that one of the real torments in their life is they're thinking that they need to be in control of everything. And they need to be in control, particularly of situations. And that drive to be in control of a situation can put tremendous pressure on you to come to a resolution the moment that something is placed before you, so that you can have this sense of control. Now, it's something that is really unhealthy for you. That is, the only way that you can have, per se, control in any kind of situation is if you were invited into something and you properly go through your process in order to be clear about what decision is correct for you, and then you can enter into it correctly. The other thing about your open heart center is that you have the 25th gate, which is part of your profile, that is your personality earth in the 25-1, and it's pointed downwards towards the heart center and an open 51. Now, this is often something that can be very, very risky for your heart, physically for the heart. My intent here is not to frighten you, but at the same time, it's something for you to really, really be conscious of. Putting yourself under ego pressure, putting yourself under pressure to prove yourself is putting your heart under enormous pressure. And it's really something for you to be clear about. This is not what you're here for in this incarnation. Anyone who came onto this plane with an open heart center, the gods are saying, look, you don't have to prove anything this time around. All you have to do is make sure that other people are clear. It's not about you having to prove your worth. It's about your capacity to recognize the worth in others. And in recognizing that worth in others, a role that is inherent in what it is for you as a projector to have this openness, is that this is part of the way in which you can really express yourself and fulfill your purpose on this plane. And there's something else that is, unusual in that sense about your basic configuration and your design. We all get to have 26 activations, that combination of the planets and, the nodes and the moon on both sides. And out of the 26 activations that you have, 16 of them, the majority of them, are either first line or second line. You have 8 first lines and you have 8 second lines. First of all, about the nature of the first line. You have a 1-3 profile. And as a 1-3 profile, you're here to be very absorbed in this life and very absorbed in your own process. Again, not being dependent in that sense on the other. And you have your personality sun in the 46-1, and this is the line of being discovered. It says dedication in obscurity that is unexpectedly discovered, art for art's sake. And this is really the key to understanding the nature of your life. That is, you're here to do the things that you love to do because you love to do them. Not because you need to prove something to anyone. This is one of the traps for you, is to end up doing things and being hooked into things that are really unhealthy for you, and jumping into those things in the moment when they come because you think that somebody cares about you, respects you, loves you, whatever the case may be. The most important thing that you can do in this life is focus on what you love to do and to do it as best that you can, and not worry about where it's going to lead. If you don't worry about where it's all going, if you just do it the art for art's sake, you will see that sooner or later you're going to get the recognition that you deserve. And not only do you have a first-line personality in terms of your sun, earth, but as I said, you have 8 first lines. Now, I understand the phenomena of first lines. I have 10 of them myself. And everything about having the first line in your design is that you're really here to investigate. You're here to dig into things deeply. You're not here to jump on anything. And as a projector, you have to see that your gift of investigation is something that is so perfect for you in the nature of your type. That is, that projectors are here to master systems, or to master ways in which they can guide others, regardless of what that particular, system or knowledge is. And it is a key for you. It's only when you've really done your investigation, it's only when you've really dug into things, again, like doing that thing that you love to do without being concerned about what anybody else thinks about it, so you can get better and better at it, go deeper and deeper into it, and perfect it. With this kind of first-line activation in your design, this is really a very, very powerful key for you to make sure that you investigate things as deeply as you can before you're ready to present them. And it goes back to what I'm telling you about being a triple split definition and not getting hooked in the moment when you don't have all of the investigative material that you need. You know, in that moment in somebody's aura, when something comes your way, you don't have a chance to really dig into it. One of the natural ways of investigation for you is the byproduct of that public aura that allows all aspects of your design to go over things and to explore them. But beyond that is the gift that you have to really look into things and dig into them as deeply as you can. You know, at the unconscious level, you're a third line being. And, you know, the whole nature of the third line being is the risk of ending up, you know, with martyrdom being your story. That is, ending up being somebody who is deeply pessimistic about their possibilities in life. And, of course, again, this is something that leads naturally back to your open heart center, leads naturally back to the not self-conditioning of not feeling worthy, being caught in those things in the moment that lead you into situations and lead you into relationships that turn out to be unhealthy for you. And the byproduct is that you tend to put the pressure on yourself, the blame, if you will, on yourself, that you're not good enough, that it was your mistake, that it was your problem. Yet everyone who carries the 1-3 has an incredible potential to investigate and discover, because this is really the nature of your design. You know, you're here to find out what doesn't work. And in finding out what doesn't work, being able to put yourself on a path that ultimately is going to be rewarding and correct for you. So you have to see that, you know, it is so important for you to dig into things, to investigate them, to go into them as deeply as you can. The other part of this, you know, dual dominance that you have in line activations is all of the second line themes that you have. Now, the second line is something that is fascinating in the sense that it always points to an area within us that others can see and project on. You know, you receive, in that sense, a lot of projection relative to what perhaps your potential can be. And also to recognize that the second line theme is about getting the call. And of course, getting the call is very, very important for you. You can see that in, for example, your design Mars. I talked about your 21, you know, when it's correct for you to be in control. Well, you can be in control when you get the call. You know, you can find transformation when you get the call. You can go into retreat, or you can remember things when the call is there. Every single aspect that you have that is a second line aspect, this is something that is waiting for the call. Most human beings don't recognize, you know, those who carry a lot of second lines. They're deeply handicapped by the way in which their not self-mind operates. You know, if your personality is always trying to figure out how to make your life better, if your personality is always trying to calculate and control the nature of your life, then it misses those calls that are going to come to you. And again, you know, this is one of the things for you to see about what it means for you to be a projector. You know, every design has to find a way to embrace surrender. You know, this is one of the keys. You hear this word bandied about in the spiritual world all the time. Within the context of human design, it's very mechanical. Yet it still represents an extraordinary challenge. It's a challenge for you to, you know, embrace what it means fully to be a projector. That you really are here to wait for things to move towards you. You know, most human beings don't realize that life delivers. It does. You know, and the great possibilities that are there for you in this life will come to you if you allow them to come to you. As a projector, you have to see that this is everything for you. The invitation is truly everything for you. And yet that invitation that comes, remember that it's not something that you're here to deal with in the moment. You need to be clear through your investigation, through stepping out into that public aura, whether that's really the call that's correct for you. Because your theme, your deep theme, where success can be for you in this life, and after all, as a projector, success is an extraordinary theme. This is the perfection of the projector life, is to find success in this life. And you have the 48th gate. The 48th gate is the gate of serendipity. It is a gate that is deeply, deeply associated with the potential of success or failure. That is the channel of succeeding where others fail, or failing where others succeed. And everything about success for you is doing things for their own sake. And in essence, that means doing things because it is correct for you to do them for you. For you. You're not here on a cross of service. You're not here to be available in that sense to the other, in that what you do is for them. It isn't. What you have to do is for you. Out of that can come benefits to the other. But the primary drive in all of this is that you're doing what is correct for you, and you're doing what you love to do. This is something that is enormously important for you to grasp. Most human beings in their lives feel like it's never possible to do what they want to do, or do what they dream of doing. And yet the truth is that you're designed for that. Now, it doesn't mean that you can go chase after it. It doesn't mean that, you can decide that you're going to do this or that. It's about recognizing that the invitation will come to you that will bring just that thing to you. It's the only way that it's going to work for you. And at the moment that that correct thing is there for you, that's the moment that you're here to lose yourself in it. This is really what you're all about. To lose yourself, to be totally self-absorbed in that process is what it is to be a 1-3. All 1-3s are here to triumph through their self-absorption, to be deeply, deeply, deeply in your process, and deeply investigating that thing, not because you want to prove something to somebody else, not because you want to prove anything to yourself, because it feels good, because it's correct for you, that you love to do it, that you love digging into it, that you love perfecting it. This is what it is about for you. And if your life to this point has not brought you that, it's not something to be concerned about. One of the real fetishes that we have in our societies is that we have this assumption that, everything about the nature of being is that we have to grasp things early, and we have to prove ourselves at a very early age, and it really is not the point. Most of the first 50 years of a human's life as a nine-centered being is about the accumulation of experience. It's about the accumulation of, wisdom through maturity to get to that place where one is ready to flower, where one is ready to begin the Chiron process from 50-51, into the 80s, to be able to fulfill this portion of the life as a complete being. This potential is something that is there waiting for you. And it is all about, this art for art's sake, to do the thing for the sake of doing it. Not because you're trying to get away from something, not because you've been enslaved by others, not because you're hooked on the energy, not because of any of the things that trap human beings, but because it's the correct thing for you, because you've entered into it correctly. As a triple split projector, you need to see that the decision-making process for you is your greatest liberation. And out of that comes that potential ultimately to be of value to the society around you. All projectors ultimately are here to provide guidance. And that potential of guidance is there for you when you've taken all this incredible investigative potential that you have, that you've put it to work in something simply because it is the thing for you to do. And that ultimately, this is what you're going to be able to present to the world around you, because it's going to be recognized and it's going to be called out. And ultimately, that is going to bring your reward in this life. So be clear. Don't get caught in the moment. Don't get caught in that auric moment with the other. Don't be fooled. Don't be trapped into making decisions about things that are simply not correct for you. live your strategy in authority, and live that strategy in authority as a true triple split definition. Take advantage of that public aura. Take advantage of being gifted with the potential to explore and to investigate and do what you love to do. And in the end, you will see this gives you the most beautiful thing of all, the self-love. And that self-love and the reward and respect that comes for you as a being on this plane. All right, well,